Here we have another limit question, and it's pretty straightforward, except the only things we have to do is change what some of these variables look like in a calculator. The first thing that we're going to express differently is delta x. We're just going to set it equal to h, because it's much easier to say or express in a calculator. The other thing is this. Our cube root, we're going to write it as something raised to the 1/3 power. So the question is not that bad, we just have to be careful in the way that we're inputting our variables. Alright guys, for this question, you just have to be really careful of all your inputs. So our function has a numerator and denominator, so it's going to look like this. It's going to have a numerator and it's going to have a denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to input everything in my numerator first and then put everything into my denominator. Okay, so my numerator, the first sentence is cube root of all this stuff. So I'm going to go cube root. Remember, cube root can be expressed as 1/3. And what this empty space right here is what's inside the cube root. So inside my cube root, there's a lot of parentheses here. I have another set of parentheses. This one will be x plus, and if you think about delta x to be h, if I can find h here, it will be the white key and then 8. Boom. So then we have x plus h squared minus 32. So I have x plus h squared minus 32 all under a cube root. That's what this is saying, up to this parentheses. Now the next part of the numerator is this, minus another cube root. Another cube root. So what's inside that cube root? Well, I have x squared minus 32. And I think we officially did the numerator. Good. Now for the denominator, it's pretty easy. All it is delta x, but for us, that means just h. Right? Anytime I want to get to these white keys, I hit this alpha button first. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to define this. So I'm going to say this whole equation is going to be set to be, let's just call it, I don't know, g. I'm going to say alpha g of x. So I'm renaming this whole equation to be called g of x. And I'm going to press enter. And it says, okay, sure, it's done. Okay, so now I'm going to find the limit of g of x, which was this whole equation that we made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F3, and there's a thing that says limit. I click limit, and the first part of our limit will be our function. So let's type in g of x. Remember, g is in white, so we got to get to that. We had to hit alpha first in order to get to that. G of x. And they're going to say there's two other commas that need to be in here. After the first comma, it's going to say what variable is moving close to what number. So as, this is how our sentence is written, right? As h, comma, goes to what number? It goes to 0. So what is this sentence saying? This says, take the limit of g of x. The first comma means as h, and the second comma means goes to, as h goes to 0. And then let's hit enter. It's saying busy in the top bottom right, and then it should spit out an answer.